Hello, we are here for our second Police Commission Task Force podcast. My name is Kiara Zachary, the City of Golden Valley's Equity and Inclusion Manager and Staff Liaison to the Commission. Today, I am joined by three task force members that interview. They'll answer some questions for us, give us an update on all things Police Commission Task Force and upcoming community events. Hi, y'all.
Hi, Kiara.
Let's start with some introductions. Dipanjan, why don't you go first?
Thanks, Kiara. Hi, everyone. My name is Dipanjan Chatterjee. I live in the North Tyrol neighborhood of Golden Valley, and I've been there for over 10 years and absolutely love it. Love Golden Valley. I have two small kids who attend Meadowbrook Elementary, and I joined the Police Commission Task Force for multiple reasons. The first would be so I channel all of this energy and anxiousness around what policing is evolving to become towards something constructive. And that was based on many different conversations that I've been pulled into as a person of color. And what I took away from so many of those conversations is because people are in their defensive mode right now, they're only seeing one version of the truth. And the way that I look at the world is coexisting truths. And those two things seem to be at odds right now. And I wanted to find a constructive way to bring that mindset to solve or to help solve this policing problem that we're having. And so the Police Commission Task Force just seemed like an amazing opportunity for me to channel my energy and my passion towards something that means a lot to me.
Thank you. All right, Julie, why don't you go next?
Sure. I'm Julie Jonas. I've lived in the Wesley Park area of Golden Valley for the past 13 years. My kids went through the school system here, went to Meadowbrook and then up through Hopkins. We just love this area. We have wonderful neighbors and met wonderful people through the school system and different sports. So just really, really happy to live here. And I wanted to be part of this task force because I think we're really at a tipping point in police-community relationships where things could continue to devolve in the way that we've seen in other communities. But we also have a real opportunity here to do something to improve policing and improve police community relations and really make changes towards 21st century policing. And I wanted to be involved in that.
Thank you. And our last task force member is Mark.
Good morning. My name is Mark Hastie. I have lived in Golden Valley for 8 years now, and I have two older stepsons who are not in school anymore, but went through Little League and all the different sports in the area here. And I joined the Police Commission Task Force similar to what Julie said. I think we're at a tipping point as well, where there's an opportunity to improve the relationship between the police and the community in all parts of our area, but particularly in Golden Valley. And I'm someone who's very passionate about public service. I wanted to lend my voice to that. I'm also an immigrant from another country, lived here a long time, and so wanted to add the voice of a different culture in terms of how policing works as my voice. And so it's been a privilege to be part of the task force. Thank you.
Well, thank you all. And I think I took this opportunity for many of the reasons that you all have. I had just started this position. I think I was 2 months in when I was asked to be staff liaison or to help with this Police Commission Task Force. And it's been a wonderful privilege to work with you all, to have and facilitate some of these extremely critical conversations, especially over this past year. To understand, it's helped me understand the voices and opinions and insights of our community members and how to really strike the balance between being accountable to my colleagues, the police officers, and also the community to facilitate that bridge building and mutual understanding. has been a challenge, but very wonderful experience. So in the last podcast, we were joined by two other task force members, James Rhodes and Chris Hartzler, and they were able to speak to, the beginning of the task force and how far we'd come at that point. They spoke a lot about how our minds had super big ideas and how we were able to sort of narrow them down. And now we've got real products to show, which is exciting for us. How we were able to get to that point was by doing a poll that many answered. And we were able to get a lot of feedback, really affirming the work of the task force, showing that we had, what you all have brought to the community is really matches what the community wants. And so as we reviewed the poll results and we've got this community input report, I just want to ask you all, how do you feel about the results of the poll? Julie, most specifically, what surprised you about the poll results?
So I was impressed about a couple of things with the poll results. One thing that Kiara, you had pointed out earlier, was that the responses to the polling really, and the people who responded very much reflected our community. You kind of expect when you see these polls maybe that they're going to be answered by 40 and 50 something Caucasian people, but that wasn't the case. We really had a diversity of age and race that really did reflect our community. The other thing that I think was really wonderful about the poll is the poll had both open-ended questions for people to answer and also sort of a ranked choice sections. And usually I think people will answer the ranked choice, but the open-ended questions were answered very, very thoughtfully. And it was very clear from reading all of the answers that we got that the people who responded had been thinking about this and were very thoughtful in their responses and sophisticated in their answers and responses in ways that the task force would really be able to utilize.
Yes, definitely. How do you see, Mark, this is for you, how do you see the task force using this community feedback in its decision-making process?
Thank you for that question. I think that how it has happened is in several ways. One, the initial phase of the task force was putting together some of the concepts and ideas, and then the community survey was then to get initial feedback on those to make sure that we were on the right track. And so we take those results, and really as we put together the mission statement, the duties and responsibilities of the future task force, making sure that there's a kind of a matching process where we're clear that we use the feedback to ensure that the work is affirm the work, but also inform us of whether there may be potential gaps, given the feedback to the result that comes out from in terms of the duties and responsibilities and the mission is the best reflection of what the community looks to see from a future commission task force. So I think that we're using at different points. We've already used the input so far, and we will continue to do so as we bring the task force to an end.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that the task force values is community input and feedback to create that loop, right? We have police officers that are on our task force, and they're a part of these conversations, and they're listening, and they're, not struggling, but working through these thoughts with us. And it's so important that we are responsive to the feedback. If we're going to solicit it, right? If we're going to ask folks how they feel, I think it's important that we are using it to create the commission, the mission and bylaws. So Dipanjan, this is a question for you. Why is it important for the task force to engage and involve the community at several points during this process?
I absolutely love this question, and I think this is at the heart of what Mark and Julie have been talking about, and what you've been talking about in terms of why we're all gathering on the police task force as a community, as a microcosm of the community. But it's important to engage the task force at several points during this process for multiple reasons. First and foremost, the community is the customer of the police department, first and foremost. So it would be misleading for us to generate solutions and ideas and recommendations for the community without engaging them. It's like a business launching a product without talking to its customers. It just doesn't make sense. Second of all, on the task force, we've spent a lot of time talking about data and how the data can really provide some real insight to how the Golden Valley Police Department thinks about itself now and in the future. Well, I would say the equivalent of that in the community is the voice and the sentiment of the community members. And that's the highest level of, currency that we can find as we go, as the people on the task force go about trying to come up with solutions that, again, reflect the needs of a very diverse group of stakeholders, from police, from the city of Golden Valley, from the city council, from community members, and then within the community, members of different age, race, and demographics.
Absolutely. And in our short 6-month lifespan, right, we're creating podcasts, and we've put out a poll. We've engaged with folks on Golden Valley social media pages. And now we have another community engagement opportunity coming up next week on May 5th, where we will present what we've come up with so far. We have been tasked to create the name, the mission, and bylaws for the new commission, and we have some loose ends to wrap up, we'll call it, but we really want community input before we finalize those decisions. And so this community event on May 5th, or as Mark explained earlier, if in other times, is an opportunity for community really to help us make those decisions. So this is for all of you. What do you hope to see from the community engagement events on May 5th?
Population responding and being present for the community engagement event, that we see again a diverse population in terms of race and age, and their connection to Golden Valley, and that they bring that same thoughtful and sophisticated ideas, and that we can build on those when we hear from them.
Thank you, Julie.
I would say that I would echo what Julie said, but I'd also hope that the folks in the community they'll be listening on both sides, right? To listen to some of the updates from the task force about what we've come up with, and so to hopefully actively listen, and then just give that feedback based on those the work that we've done, and then vice versa. The task force members will be there to also practice active listening, and really as a way to ensure that, again, as I think I said earlier, we want to make sure we don't come to the end of this process with any blind spots or gaps that were missed, throughout this whole time. And because we would hate to see all this work go in there and then there'd be something there that, oh boy, we should have caught that issue and it didn't come up there. So hopefully this event will help, as I say, one of our bigger events, to help, kind of close that gap, so to speak.
Yeah, and to build on what Mark just said and what Julia just said, it's about trust, and us on the task force showing that we have a level of empathy and compassion for the community, and that our sentiments kind of reflect theirs. And to Mark's point and Julie's point, if it doesn't, that's okay, because we're here to clarify and build on those sentiments. And so I think the trust part comes from what Mark was saying, is to show that we are actively listening, and people can quickly sense that. People are very smart and perceptive, and they know when you're listening versus when you're not listening. And so if they can get from our task force that we are listening and that we are genuinely here to understand what they want to say and what their hopes and fears are, then I think we can earn their trust, and then in turn, feel confident that we're representing our community's beliefs and not just the task force's beliefs when we put forth our recommendations.
Wonderful. I'm really excited about this opportunity. And I think that this will really help us prepare, I think, especially for council. I mean, ultimately, we're going to be recommending these things to council, and the more that we can tie in the community, it'll allow council to understand that this is what we're asking for, as we've mentioned, is something new and different, a combination of a bunch of things that we've seen happening across not only just Minnesota and the metro area, but we've even looked at nationwide examples of police community commissions to come up with these mission and the mission and bylaws. And so, Mark, if a community member can't make one of the events on May 5th, what are other ways that they can still have their voice be heard and provide input for us?
Thanks, Kiara. So the event on May 5th, first of all, will be recorded and available to view. So I think it's important to make sure that folks understand that they can view and listen to that, so they are able to give feedback based on the most up-to-date information that's out there on the task force. If you're unable to make the event on May 5th, you can reach out to any of the task force members if you know us from the community, where our names are all on the City of Golden Valley's website. You can tune in and listen to also the final few meetings that we do have. They're every other Thursday coming up. Only a couple left, I believe. But secondly, if you have a group or a part of a group and want to hear from a member of the task force or maybe a city council member, reach out to your city council person, reach out to the city staff, and we will endeavor to get you. There's a list that we're already trying to engage already of community groups that we know. But if you've got a group and you haven't heard from someone on the task force or the city council, then please reach out. I know that also the city staff do monitor some of the social media pages, so you can also provide feedback there if that's your preferred method of communication. So there are many, many ways to engage, and we look forward to getting your input as we come towards the kind of the home stretch of the task force.
Yes, home stretch indeed. I believe we have 3 meetings left, and then we will present to council. Any closing remarks? Any last words for our listeners before we wrap up today? Julie?
Thank you. I really want to commend your work, Kiara, and the rest of the city staff who's been involved in this. Our city attorney, Maria Cisneros, Councilwoman Rosenquist, the police chief and his officers who've been present, who've been so open to the suggestions and the discussion. We can tell as task force members that there's been a lot of work going on behind the scenes to put this all together. And I'm just really thankful for the work that you all have done, and thankful to be on this commission. I've done a lot of public service work over my life, but I've never felt that I've had the opportunity to make quite such an impact as I have been able to with this task force. So thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Mark?
I want to echo Julie's sentiments about thanking all the staff from the city that have been involved in supporting, and all the fellow task force members. You know, we've really had, for any of the folks out there, if you felt to tune into our meetings and listen in, I think you found a very engaged group of people there. What I'll just say is that we're not doing this in a vacuum. You know, we are doing this at a time when our state, our metropolitan area has been in the national news for a lot of reasons around policing. And that is not lost on the minds of everyone in this task force. At least myself, I can speak for myself only, I guess. And as we've looked at this, I think what our residents can find is that this commission, the way it's heading, will be one of the more progressive and really engaged police commissions going forward, if it comes in the form we're hoping for, and really have an opportunity to have a way for the police to engage with the community, for citizens to understand what the police do, and also for some level of accountability for the police. And lastly, really to ensure that we have some good equitable hiring practices in the city as well, across the board. So just really privileged and honored to be part of the task force. Thank you.
All right. And Brandon, would you wrap it up for us?
Yeah. So absolutely want to start by saying thanks to Golden Valley, to Kiara, to Maria, and the rest of the Golden Valley folks who have organized this and have put in countless hours to make sure that people like me and Mark and Julie have a platform to use, and a safe place to share our thoughts and our opinions and our ideas. I think, just to continue to reinforce the fact that the stakes are high when it comes to policing right now at a national, state and local level, almost everywhere, but as Mark mentioned, even more so here in Minnesota. And I think what this whole experience has taught me is that, especially right now with social media, I made a joke, 10 minutes ago, that if none of this works, you can always get drunk and make a post on Facebook to your echo chamber. And it's a joke, but it's also not, because that's a lot of what's happening right now, is people just yelling into their echo chambers. And of course that serves a purpose, but if you are looking for a way to channel whatever it is that you're feeling on whatever side that you're feeling, and you live in Golden Valley, there's a place for you to do that constructively. There are channels for you to express your views. There's work to be done. There's change to be made. And we're trying to take advantage of a moment where all of the audiences that are necessary to make that change are sitting in a room together in many uncomfortable scenarios and moments, and becoming more comfortable with being uncomfortable. And through that process, we'll eventually come out on the other side with some really killer ideas, and some ideas that will really potentially provide meaningful change that the community has been asking for. So really, I'll just end with, there is nothing standing in the way between your desire for change and that change happening. So get out there and engage the community, and let's do this together.
And leave it at that. I feel like there's nothing I can add to be more poignant than that. Thank you so much for joining me. Hopefully you join us on May 5th. Have a good rest of the day.